Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast. In this episode, we'll be discussing Across the Spider-Verse, the new Spider-Man movie that doesn't quite end, as well as our topic this week is going to be those shortened TV seasons. Do we like that, or do we miss the days of old where they were 22 episodes, they went on for 10 years, and usually they had the same lead actor the entire time? What is happening in television? Let's find out. Let's get on with the show. My name is Aaron Peterson. Joining me today are my fellow host, John Davenport.
Hey, buddy. How you doing today?
Wonderful. Amanda Sink.
Hello, hello.
And Troy Heinrichs will not be here. He's actually taking time off because we had the ability for him to, so he's getting a break. Remember, you can always find more information at thehollywoodoutsiders.com. You can join our Facebook group. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thehollywoodoutsiders, or we're on Twitter at BuyPopcorn, etc., etc. What's new with you guys? Okay, good talk.
I'm sorry, did you just ask what's new with us guys?
Yeah, what's new with you guys?
Blended that into your previous statement, so I wasn't sure if this was directed to us.
Like I was asking the audience and seeing if they would respond?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just not used to you caring that about how we're doing or what's new with us.
Hey, guy in the Mazda, how you doing?
How you doing?
Oh, what's new?
How's that little Miata treating you?
We're next week we will be on the whole cruise, so you will hear a very shortened version of the podcast combined with something from Patreon just to give you kind of a sample. But we're all packing up to go on the whole cruise 2023.
Well, we're recording on the Sunday before we leave, right? We leave on next Sunday. So today I got to get all my laundry sorted. I got to get all the shirts that I'm going to have iron. I'm going to start packing because for the last 2 weeks I've been creating my packing piles.
What the hell is a packing pile?
Well, it's a pile of crap that I want to take with me.
Why do people put so much thought into packing? You know what you need. Just make sure it's in the bag. It's not that hard.
I got my waterproof bag. I've got my over-the-shoulder bag. I've got my camera bag. I got my 18 cameras that I'm bringing with me for all different jobs.
Are you going to lug 18 cameras around and take different pictures of different things?
Well, they're all action cameras of one type or
Can't
another.
You get one action? I mean, it's 2023. I'm pretty sure you can get a camera that does all that.
I have a camera that does all that. It's just that they're all different types of action cameras, and I happen to have them all, so I'm going to use them all.
Okay.
Don't you judge me like that.
That's 18 cameras. I don't understand. If you have one that does it, why do you need the other 17? It just seems like it's like bringing a family of cousins when you really just want to hang out with mom.
Wait, okay, weird, but
it's the first thing that popped in my head, and I don't know why, and I don't really want to go to therapy to find out why.
That's stuck in your head like that. But I was just going to go right past it and not know why your cousins had to be involved. Alabama. So don't you judge me for all my cameras, especially after I create a pretty cool-ass video of our trip so that we can show the world how awesome going on a cruise with us is like.
What if it sucks? Then the video's going to be...
Didn't he do one last time? It was pretty good last time.
Yeah, but what if this cruise actually sucks? What if nobody has a good time? Everyone's looking over the railing just sad, mopey.
Or we fall off.
Yeah, or we
get bit by a shark.
We lose Amanda?
Because
she didn't make the boat? Something like that.
I'll make the boat.
Oh, she'll make the boat. That's a priority. Making the boat is a priority to her.
We'll see. I love sitting on the balcony. I don't love it. It's horrible. But I enjoy sitting on the balcony and watching people miss the boat. That's always fun.
Like when you leave the port.
Yeah, because they don't wait for people. That's fun.
My worst nightmare. Those are. I will say.
You know what?
When I did the cruise last time,
if we see you on the dock, we'll just be like,
goodbye.
Yeah, that figures.
No, I'm very intentional about making it before it leaves because I am super paranoid about it.
No one will believe your story. You're like, here's what happened. You could have literally been hijacked by traffickers and you escaped, and it was some Jason Statham came to save you. Literally, Jason Statham. I don't know why he would be in the Bahamas, but who knows? Or the Virgin Islands.
Why wouldn't he be?
Yeah.
Both. We're actually going to
both.
both.
And it could actually happen. You could have a selfie and still no one will believe you. I'm just
They'd
saying.
be like, "No, she was just late."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I am really looking forward to it.
I actually planned my Saturday. So usually what I do because of the port we're leaving out of, because it's on the opposite side of the state from me, I just wake up early and drive over in the morning. But this time I decided that the day. Why are you laughing at me?
All these people and all these plans. You guys, I just feel like vacation gets overthought. That's all.
No, I
just
okay,
show up
so
and have a great
wait
time.
a minute.
That's what I do.
don't. People keep asking me where are we going, and I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you say that, but then you have all these cameras, so it sounds like you're planning for some stuff.
No, I am not planning. I am
Or
being.
He's
cool,
prepared.
elaborate
I'm preparing.
traps.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
All right, let me rephrase. I'm being more prepared for whatever may happen.
You're Boy Scouting your vacation. That's
I'm
what
Boy Scouting my vacation.
Okay.
Yes.
3 fingers to the wind. I get it.
I will say I got burned pretty bad on my arm last week.
Just one arm.
And yeah,
I like out
it was
the window.
from cooking. No,
I
it
was going to say, it's from all
cooking.
that driving. She's just hanging that arm out the window, and she's got a
I
sunburn
can't
on
do
it.
that. I
Summer
can't
arm.
do that. I can't do that. Yeah, I actually have to intentionally make sure I wear like a jacket or a sweater or something, because otherwise I would get sunburned driving to and from work. But no, I burned really bad, and so I have like these like scars and blisters in some of my tattoos, which is a huge bummer.
Ooh, that's not good.
In my Scarlet Witch tattoo specifically.
Well, I mean, that feels like it would fit, right?
I guess, but she kind of already drew the burn and the fire and shit, the chaos magic.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I'm allergic to the sun, so no matter when I get it, I blister now. Which didn't happen until I turned 40, but now it happens every time, and it's really exhausting. So, yeah, see, it kills the room, right? Nobody cares
White
about
people
this.
problems.
Yeah.
It's very, very much a white people.
But what about you? What have you been up to,
Nothing.
Aaron?
Nothing.
He can't talk about what he's been up to.
I don't talk.
can-
Not on here. I
He can
can't.
say something good happened to him.
I mean, you don't really talk about Fight Club.
I'm moving
first fucking rule.
into a new role.
There you go, see?
in the work environment. That's all. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
About it.
So now he's been upgraded to second fluffer.
I
And
did not speak that comment, so just so you know.
and what else did you just complete? Tell the world.
About my deck?
Yeah,
Nobody
that's something you've been
cares.
doing. People
I
care.
rebuilt my deck.
It looks really good. He did the manual labor.
I'm your friend and I don't care.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm
it
like
looks great.
that's impressive. I will never see it in person, but that's impressive.
Yeah.
You're never gonna go visit him. Wow.
Had to
Shade.
do it all myself, though, because it's way too expensive to try to hire someone. But hey, what are you going to do? How about some movie and TV? You guys want to talk about movie and TV? I feel like some people probably listen for that.
I mean, I guess so.
Do they?
Nope.
It seems like every time we start talking about that stuff, they leave.
Don't jinx it, man. So have you guys checked out this rebranding of Max? Now, they restream themselves Max. They were HBO Max, but they said they wanted to. This is what they said. They wanted to. This Troy told us this right in the summer TV preview episode. Max wanted to broaden their horizons and reach families by rebranding themselves to Max and losing that stigma of the adult-oriented HBO brand. And all I keep thinking is, all I think is Cinemax, and the last thing I think about are families with that one.
I mean, I go down that same road when it comes to Cinemax, but the rebranding itself is something that I'm finding to be a little problematic because before it used to be kind of easy to find what I wanted to watch on No, I almost said Cinemax.
See?
On
Whoa,
HBO
whoa,
Max.
I'm telling ya.
whoa.
Red Shoe
Maybe
Diaries,
that
here we
was
go.
a slip up. That was a slip up,
was-
you guys.
That was called a Freudian slip. Anyhow, it's usually pretty good. You know what? HBO has some raunchier stuff on it, so that's
Not
fine with
anymore.
that.
Not anymore. They lost like Hitchhiker and all that stuff. They don't have that stuff anymore. Now it's pretty safe. Maybe
What
maybe
about real
Euphoria.
sex?
And
Real sex.
that's
is
not on anymore though. They haven't had that in a while. Do they?
It's in the documentary section.
Well, I mean new ones. It's not new. It's old stuff.
I don't need new. I just need exciting.
Okay. Now you're really creeping me out. So continue with your story.
All right. So what I'm finding is that I'm not really thrilled with it because I can't really find what I want. I'm finding there's it's kind of cluttered in the sense of there's all this stuff on there that I would not spend time with from the ID area or from, the Discovery area or these building houses out of sticks area. I don't know. It's not really as user friendly as it used to be. And I'm finding that there's a lot of stuff I'm like looking and clicking and going, no. Oh, maybe no. And it reminds me too much now of like a big bright blue Apple TV or Apple Plus, whatever it's called. And I didn't like that. So that's where I kind of am.
So John, not a fan. Amanda, have you checked it out at all?
I mean, I went in the app for a short bit, but I didn't watch anything in there because I didn't find anything I wanted to. I will say one thing that was really nice about having to switch the app is that it automatically did it for you, like the login.
For some people. Yeah,
Oh.
I think some people had to
Yeah, no,
re-download it.
I had to do it all.
Well, it did it for me. It was nice. I was annoyed that I was going to have to log in. And then when I went to, after I downloaded it and opened the app, it just automatically had me signed in and had my profiles ready and all that. The color is ugly. They shouldn't have done that. They should have stayed with the purple.
They should have. There's too many blue ones out there already.
Yep. They should have stayed with the purple. That made them unique.
I'm a
It made them
Smurfist.
different. You're a Smurfist.
Tired of all the blue. Get away from the blue.
It would be really cool if you can change the color of that app, the background and all
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. So you can change it. So if you wanted to be more like a dark mode or go
Which
to
is
a
right
color
where
that
you
makes-
lean immediately, right? That's exactly what, like, can I get
That's
darker? Can I
Can I
just
get
go
dark mode, please?
Can I go black hole?
I feel seen.
I don't know. And I missed the purple. I think it was distinct, so it stood out. They lost a few from my list of shows that I subscribed to were no longer there. And they were shows that are still ongoing, which cracked me up. I mean, I didn't lose stuff. The Mayor of Easttown's still on there, which has, it's not even going to have another season. And Barry's on there, which just ended its series. But, shows that are ongoing, John Oliver, Bill Maher, stuff like that, that's gone. Maybe they're trying to tell me something.
That's weird.
They're saying stop being political.
That is weird.
Also, I don't understand why they had to do a whole new app. Why couldn't they just, and this is maybe the IT side that you two can tap into, but why couldn't they just make the modifications to the app, including the name, on the existing app? Like just update the existing
Well, I think
app.
they're overhauling. They were overhauling the infrastructure too, because they were changing the whole design and everything. They could have done it that way, really, Amanda, if they wanted to. They just chose to rebrand completely.
Yeah, it's possible that they wanted to do something to just do rebranding. There was the back end stuff that has to do with the streaming quality and how they want to be able to either speed things up or slow them down for you, depending on what kind of bandwidth you're on. So,
Gotcha. So just easier probably to just create a new app type of thing.
I suppose. I mean, the whole
That's
thing is
annoying.
just, it's silly. I'm getting tired of, honestly, I'm getting tired of streamers across the board. I mean, not to mention, they just dumped, Max a while back dumped billions of TV shows and whatnot, content that they had. Now Disney Plus is doing that. Disney is dumping a bunch of content. So all those shows that you love at Disney, the 3 of them that are on there that are interesting, they might be gone. You never know. You have to keep checking. So, I mean, the streamers as a whole are kind of becoming frustrating and also making a great case for physical media. Once again, buy your stuff, own it.
yeah, that's definitely a side of it that I want to really harp on. If you absolutely love something, don't be afraid to go buy it, and don't rely on it being on whatever streamer to be able to sit down and watch it. And if you're buying the digital version of whatever it is you're buying, make sure you download it to an external storage on your computer so that you always have it. You always have it available. You always have it there for you. That way they can't, because what happens with a lot of these streamers is they lose the licensing to be able to play it at a certain time. So even though you bought it and you own it, if you try to stream it and they lost the license to it, it goes bye-bye. So that's why you want to make sure you download all your content to some sort of external storage.
I just had a buddy, sadly, tell me how impressed he was with a friend of his because he was so smart. He figured out how to create a server where he could basically store a bunch of movies. And it was a Plex server. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, which has been going on for eons, number one. And also, as I told him, that's stealing, right? And he's like, no, it's not. These are movies he owns. He just has them on his own server. I'm like, that's not how that works. Your friend isn't as smart as you think he is. He's
I
just
don't understand.
It depends on how they're collecting their movies. If they're doing,
he's stealing them.
if they're,
I promise you, he's stealing them.
Yeah, if he's stealing them, that's something. There, my father has gone through and digitized his entire DVD and Blu-ray collection.
Yeah, that's different.
onto his server.
That's different.
So there's that. But there are people who I may or may not be related to who have a Plex server, and if you want to watch whatever it is you want to watch, it's probably on there.
Basically, Amanda, what a Plex server is, because she asked a second ago.
And I'm sure there's probably listeners who don't know either.
It's a server. I hope most people know what a server is. It houses information in the cloud, if you will.
Well, Plex is the operating system for that server.
Sure, there you go. Plex is the operating.
And,
there you go, John. Why don't you explain it?
Yeah, you use a Plex app, and the Plex app is designed for it to behave as if it's your own private HBO Max or whatever. So if you put movies and TV shows on there that you own, it'll go out and it'll find the posters for it and a lot of the media for it, and it'll set it up and help you organize all this media that you've digitized for yourself. Some people have not digitized their own stuff, and they have downloaded it off of torrent servers and whatnot, or torrent services. And so that's why there's this whole gray area to it as far as stealing or not stealing.
Like Indiana Jones is probably on there, and it's not out yet. That's what I'm saying.
Right. It's possible.
Oh.
The idea behind how you can log into it is that, or whoever's hosting the server, that person can give out logins to everybody, and or if you go and download the service, you send them a screenshot, like with the person that I know who does this, send them a screenshot of the TV code for when you're trying to connect. They'll connect it right to their server, and then boom, you're in there.
So it's essentially their own streaming app, sort of?
Yeah, it's their own streaming app, and the server helps. And it's streaming app and service that helps organize everything is what Plex does. And so the server is just where you're absolutely storing all this stuff.
A lot of pirated data.
I was going to say, so the intention probably behind Plex is just for, like John's father did, to digitize and have access to your content.
Sure it is.
But what you're saying, Aaron, is that
Johnny
there are
Depp
a lot of people...
lives there. Jack Sparrow lives there. It's a bunch of pirating. That's what I'm saying.
All right. That makes sense. Now I get how it's stealing.
Savvy?
All right, cool.
All right.
Yep.
Let's move on. Okay. So, big question, right? We're going to talk about the Spider-Verse. I want to know what you guys think, because the Spider-Verse movie, Across the Spider-Verse, is it a spoiler to say it ends in a cliffhanger? I don't think that's a spoiler, is it?
It was well, I won't say it is a spoiler because I saw it, but it was a surprise to me that it ends in a cliffhanger. So I didn't even know it did that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Surprise! It ends in a cliffhanger. And so did Fast X. So we've got two movies almost back to back that essentially say, if you want to see the whole story, you have to come back next year or the year after. For Spider-Verse, it's next year. It's actually, I think, March of next year. But Fast X could be a couple years, because they just announced the Hobbs Solo movie. My God, there's so much going on in the Fast and Furious world. We don't know when we're going to get that conclusion, or if everybody will be there, because Fast X, for example, has 47 characters. One of them might not be around in a year or two. You don't know what's going to happen. So, oh my God.
Who's dying in the next year or two?
I'm just saying someone could, right? Freak accident or something. It could happen.
The most likely is, unfortunately, Helen Mirren.
Oh.
Stop it.
Damn.
Jesus.
She looks healthy. She
My
still looks very
God.
healthy.
Oh, no, she looks
We
amazing.
wish
and
nothing ill on Helen Mirren. She's a delight. Jesus. In fact, do yourself a favor. Go watch Caligula. Anyway, so coming back to what I was talking about, cliffhanger endings. Is that fair to end? Now, some people will say, well, Empire Strikes Back did it and it was fantastic. And I would argue, but the story kind of ended. If I only watch Empire Strikes Back, I'm still good. It just means those guys lost in that round, right? So it feels like there's a movie still going on. The movie ended and that story was told. Now, does it bridge to another film? Absolutely. And it continues that story, but it would be fine on its own. But we've got Spider-Verse and Fast X, who are both have completely incomplete stories that end on huge cliffhangers, very much like Back to the Future 2 did back when they did that, and Matrix Reloaded did years back. What say you guys? Is this fair to the audience, or should this be advertised this way before people get into the theater.
Yeah, I wish they would have done like a part 1 type of thing. So that way we knew going into it that this is not going to be a complete story. I am personally annoyed when movies end on a cliffhanger. I always have been. I don't understand. Unless you intentionally advertise it that way and you're breaking up the story because it's too lengthy, then I understand. And I think Marvel maybe gets a little bit of leeway just because so many things connect to the different, it's their own little universe. So there's different movies that are probably going to tap into these stories. We even got some scenes from the live action films in here. So we know that it's all connected. And Fast X I have a problem with because those to me are intended to be a solid, complete film. And then it moves on and it just connects within the franchise. So that's where I kind of have, I don't know, I have a lot of frustration with the Fast X conclusion or lack thereof. And I was don't get me wrong, I was still very irritated with the Spider-Man ending too. Because like you said, you spend almost 2.5 hours investing in this movie, and you're telling me in 2.5 hours you couldn't have taken out a couple of other things to give me
they could have
some sort of conclusion.
Yeah, they could have. There's some people that are claiming this is a masterpiece. And don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking it. We'll talk about the movie more in detail shortly, but they're saying it's a masterpiece and whatnot. I'm like, how do you know it hasn't finished? How can you call something a masterpiece that hasn't finished?
Yeah. They may be speaking visually, which I have some thoughts on that too. But
Ooh.
When it comes to the story, which is ultimately what we're here for in a movie, is the story. Sometimes it's the visual that we care about more, or it's more engaging there. But your story should still have your ending. So I would agree with you, Aaron. It'd be hard to call it a masterpiece when we haven't even gotten the conclusion. We don't know how this story ends up.
Yeah, I would say you can't. Anybody that does, I would say no. And I'm not big on when it's an opinion to say no to someone, but that one I would definitely say no, it can't. You cannot have an opinion on if it's a masterpiece if you have not seen the end of it. My opinion.
Yeah, the thing that drives me nuts is that, especially ever since I've started doing this show with everybody, and I've started paying a lot more attention to things like the act structure.
You did?
When you're getting to the point that you're, huh?
I said you did. When did that start? Did you
I don't know,
just start
but
doing
it happens.
This?
Yeah, it just like in the last couple of years, like yesterday. Anyhow, when you start paying attention to the act structure, and Harry Potter had this problem, the Mockingjay stupid stories had this problem, and you get near to where the movie's about to end, and yet you're only feeling like you're about halfway through the second act. That makes me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It makes me feel like I'm now I have to wait to get to the rest of the way to the third act so that we can get the rest of that feeling, and it just doesn't feel finished. And when it doesn't feel finished, it's a waste of time. It's an absolute waste of time, and I don't understand why they do this. So if you're going to do a cliffhanger, that cliffhanger should at least, the first half should at least still have all 3 acts in it, and you shouldn't be able to feel that it's like an unsatisfactory end to whatever it is happening because you don't get the rest of the structure out of the way,
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And you could have, like Amanda said, just dropped Across the Universe Part 1 or something like that. There could have been some indication. I think it's disingenuous to not let the audience know, let them in on the fact that you are going to be walking home without a complete story. We're only halfway there. I feel like it's disingenuous to do that. And Fast X, I keep seeing Fast. It's Fast 10, but I like calling it Fast X because it's a freaking X. What I would love to have seen, you could have done it, is done because they don't care about title structures. They have no concern for playing fair with the audience in terms of titles. Do Fast V. And then the next one, Fast X. You complete the V. You just like, you got a V, then you got an upside down V, the second one, bam, that's a whole movie. I'd be fine with that. At least it'd be something creative and different and it'd make me go, what? I would love it. I know it'd be confusing because people would be like, well, it's Fast 5. But in these movies, does it matter? I don't think so.
Well, they could, no.
I like it. I'm sold on this idea. I'm going to go pitch it to somebody. Like when you release this on home video.
I don't like it, though.
Or a part 1, whatever. Fast 10 part 1. Fine. Just let us know. I mean, we know a lot of this because it's in the entertainment media, right? We know very often that these are going to be cliffhangers. I knew Fast 10 was going to be a cliffhanger. I remembered they were saying that they were going to be 2 connected Spider-Verse movies. I didn't realize it was going to be a literal cliffhanger. So I knew a lot of that, but most people don't pay attention to that stuff. Most people don't follow entertainment news regularly. Because I've talked to several friends that have seen it that knew nothing about it, and they loved the movie for whatever their reasons, but they hated the ending. Like, they're very mad about the ending. And one of them even said, there's no way I'm going to go see the second one in a theater because it just pissed me off too much. And I can't really argue his point. I feel like I get it to a degree. You know, I understand if you feel that way.
Yeah, and I think the problem is to the extent, and to John's point, the pacing. So at no point did I feel like we were truly progressing like we should for it to have had some sort of a complete ending.
Mm-hmm.
But even with it ending on a cliffhanger, there is a way to do cliffhangers where your story is complete enough for people to walk out of the theater and say, hey, I have an understanding of what's going on here, but I still have some open-ended questions. Not pretty much the entire other half of the movie is going to be in a year type of thing.
Yeah.
That's a very different type of cliffhanger that we're talking about. And Marvel does do cliffhangers or, whatever with their stingers quite a lot. Why couldn't they have mirrored that where, there was something that we weren't aware of, and so we see it in the stinger, and then that draws us into the next movie.
Agreed.
Like they've perfected that model. Why would they change that model from now? I don't understand that part either.
I don't know.
Well, see, Marvel, okay, so Marvel, you have the movie.
We're about to get mansplained here. Let's go.
Yeah, all right, whatever. You have the movie, and the movie itself stands alone, and the stinger is just there. It's not really designed to be a cliffhanger or anything else. It's just something to be like, hey, kids, come back next time, and you'll see this sort of thing.
But they do kind of bridge the story
sometimes,
these days.
yeah, sometimes they do.
Sometimes they do, but the last couple of them haven't really been doing that anyways.
Last couple of them have sucked all around.
But we're talking 10 years worth of movies where they did that quite often.
Now, the only actual Marvel cliffhanger that we've dealt with was Infinity War, and even Infinity War had all 3 points of the
story arc. Yeah.
Story arc.
Yeah. It felt like a complete movie.
Exactly. So it really was like the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel universe. So I think trying to say that Marvel has perfected the idea of a cliffhanger is a little too much to say, or it's giving them too much credit, because again, the stingers don't really necessarily count. Once the credits roll, the movie is done, and the stingers are just there to just be like a wink and a nod to the audience, and or give them a hint of what's coming next, whether it's related to that story or not. So
they should be, but they have bridged stories through that. Marvel has done that. I mean, multiple times.
Yeah, like at the end of one of them, they found Thor's hammer, whatever,
Iron Man literally ends with Nick Fury. I mean, that's what launched the whole freaking franchise. With Nick Fury saying, hey, I've got a secret initiative. You want to come check it out? Avengers, yay. It led right into it. So it bridged it.
It bridged, but I still don't think that's a cliffhanger.
I've heard it both ways.
Okay. We can move on.
Okay. You know what? Let's do that. But before we do, we want to thank all of our supporters through Patreon, which keeps the podcast going. We especially want to give a shout out to our studio heads. Yeah, everybody has a name based on the tier that you support the show with. So our studio heads are Stanley, Mandy, Christina, and Doug. Christina and Mandy both are actually coming on the Ho Crew. So that's pretty fantastic. We've got
very excited for that.
They support us at the highest tier and have an open invitation to join us on the show, and hope they each will soon. They're all welcome to join based on that tier. And also to our scriptwriters who donated at the $10 level, Jay, Paula, and Ty. Thank you guys for not going on strike. We appreciate that. All right.
That's funny.
And our shooting stars who donate at the $5 level: Andrew, C-Rick, Christian, Dave, Grillbox, Jose, Justina, Kimberly, Laura, Manuel, Nate, Rebecca, Stefan, Tammy, Virginia, and Wayne, thank you guys so much for everything you do to help support the show. We really appreciate that. And of course, those with leading roles are also appreciated. Alexander, Chris, Josh, Jennifer, Nate, Tomas. Thank you, every one of you, for all of your support. And we hope you enjoy the bonus content of Bad Movie Night and our bonus episode each month, which Patreon members get the opportunity, usually once a month, to ask us anything they want for that bonus episode. I do want to mention the Bad Movie Night is monthly, and essentially that's completely unedited. And we talk about a movie that critics or fans think is a bad movie, and we feel it's not so bad after all. So we're kind of looking for the positives in what's considered a bad movie. And once you sign up, you get immediate access to all the content in your respective tier. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. And if you want to support the show and join these awesome celebrities, it's patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. That's patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Now, let's move on to some spoiler-free reviews. We just talked about it. Let's talk about it a little bit more. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We all three saw this one. And here, this time, the story finds Miles chasing after Gwen and possibly leading to a breakdown of multiverses everywhere. I'm trying to keep the story specifics very thin because I don't want to ruin anything. I do feel like this is a movie where, as it goes, a lot of context is broken down. There's a lot of reveals and that sort of thing, and I don't want to ruin it. But Miles is still struggling with his parents. He's still keeping his secret that he's Spider-Man, and Gwen comes back into his life and then goes away, and he chases her and ends up in a multiverse society, and it goes from there. So what did you guys think in terms of the story? Keeping it as spoiler-free as you can, but you also have to talk about the movie. So, Amanda?
Oh, man. So this is a hard, as we were just talking about, it's hard to judge and give a critique on a story that is so incomplete and so incomplete. I enjoyed the story from what we saw so far. I will say that. I think that they did a nice job of trying to add in those typical kind of teenage issues that you're going to have. My parents don't understand me. My parents don't see me. I'm struggling to keep up with everything, all of that good stuff. And then obviously you have that, kind of friendship, romantic aspect of this person is in and out of your life and they've come back into your life. And so that you want to make that your priority type of thing. So that part I think was great because it's going to connect with some of the younger audiences, which is, I think, also part of their intention when they have this animated type of series that they have going on. Mm-hmm. But the way that they paced the story and what we saw so far was just not enough for me to justify a movie. There's so much that could have been cut or done differently to give us some sort of feeling of completion, even if there were ends that were not closed. Like there was a point probably 5 to 10 minutes before the end of the movie where I was like, all right, because I knew the cliffhanger was happening. I was like, this must be the cliffhanger. And that probably would have been a decent time to provide that cut. But they went a little bit further in, and now I'm like, hold on, now you just threw me into a whole completely different set of rules and circumstances. And so now I feel like I did not get anything completed in this movie. So what was the point?
I found myself actually sitting down and chuckling at quite a lot of things that happened throughout the story on this. I enjoyed the feelings and the engagement that you have with Miles and his family. And I found myself really wanting to see see Miles and Gwen spend more time together. So I got really into the interpersonal aspects of what was going on with this story. So I thought that was very sweet, very nice. And I just love the way he interacts with his parents because it just felt to a degree highly, it felt real, but an idealized real, if that makes any sense. Like,
no, it does.
It feels like a lot of different times that I might have had with my folks, and yet at the same time, a more idealized version of them. So that I guess that people, or many people, can actually can see themselves in those sorts of situations and engaging with their parents in a specific way. So I really appreciated that. I appreciated the There's one point that I really appreciated, which was I'm Puerto Rican. I'm a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, that was great.
That was really funny.
So I think there's a lot of lines that it jumps over and plays with that it does pretty deftly. But does the story feel complete? Absolutely not. But does that mean that you can't enjoy the movie? I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's still enjoyable for what it is. I just wish I didn't have to wait a full year to get the rest of the story.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And I would say the Miles and Gwen portions of the story I actually adore. I find those extremely charming. There's maybe my second favorite, and I know I have recency bias, sure, but maybe my second favorite Spider-Man shot in all of Spider-Man lore, and I've seen every damn one of these movies, in rivaling the upside down kiss from the original Spider-Man film.
That's a good call
where
out.
Gwen goes underneath, she kind of does a 180 and walks underneath and then sits upside down, and there's a romantic moment that way, which I don't know if it's necessarily directly paying homage to that original 2002 film, but it sure felt like it.
I felt like it was.
Yeah, and it was a beautifully constructive moment. Like, it's beautifully shot, beautifully, I don't want to say acted, but performed. And it's just fantastic. I love those scenes so much. What I don't like is I feel like once it got into the actual Spider-Verse, the multiverses, it got super convoluted. This is a story that focuses on destiny versus making choices, and how beholden are we to destiny. And, destiny matters very much in the Marvel world, unless you're Uncle Ben, then it doesn't matter at all, apparently. But
hey, they talk about him, though.
They do. Yeah, it's good that the cartoons remembered he existed. But, yeah, so, there's a lot about destiny versus making your own choices. And Miles is kind of an outsider in every aspect because he's not supposed to be Spider-Man according to, the destiny code. And that's what a lot of the story is about. And I feel like the message gets lost because it gets so convoluted. There's so many spider people. I feel like at some point it's just toddlers throwing things at the wall instead of making something coherent and seamless. And I absolutely think this could have been told in one movie. Obviously, I haven't seen the second part, but it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's way too long. It feels about half an hour too long. Doesn't mean I was bored, but I kept waiting for it to end. And it doesn't. So there's that. Now, the animation is one of the probably most important things to talk about because this is an animated film. And, the visuals into the Spider-Verse were fantastic. I think it takes it to another level here. While I might have issues with the story, I have zero with the animation because it basically converges every animation style I've ever seen, which is just astonishing to me. But John, you're an artiste, if you will. So what say you?
I want to open the floor to Amanda first before I launch into this.
Okay. Well,
Why,
screw
so
you,
can
John.
mansplain me?
No.
Amanda, here's
Baby.
how art works. Okay.
Let me correct you on the type of art that you saw on screen.
Possibly.
I
More than
have
likely.
no idea about the technicalities. That can all be left to John. I will say, and I need to revisit the first one. So the first one, for context, I thought was a phenomenal film. Like, it was what was it? I think it was my number one for the past decade when we did that revisit of like the 2010s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this one just felt, with the animation style, I don't even know how to explain this, but the method of changing the animation so frequently started to grind on me after a little while.
I could see that.
I think if the movie would have been shorter, I wouldn't have had such a problem with it, but I just felt like at times there's not a real good reason for why we're doing what we're doing, but it still looks really beautiful. It looks really amazing and incredible. And the facial expressions of every character, I think that's always such an important part for me to engage with an animated film, is to feel like I can see the body language and interpret it there too. And some artistic styles lack that, but the animated Spider-Man movies seem to really dive into that. They want you to feel like these are almost real people, like live action characters. And so that part I really enjoy, because then it makes me engage with them on a deeper level. I can feel their compassion. If you're familiar with mirror neurons, my mirror neurons get engaged. And so I feel that empathy on an even deeper level. And so the animation overall, I think, is still phenomenal. They do an incredible job with the work that's produced. It's just the decisions of when the animation style changes a little bit, that started to kind of grind on me.
I actually agree with that. I think for the time frame, it does become an overloading of the senses to some degree.
Yeah, that's a good succinct way to put it.
After a while, it does become an assault to the senses when it comes to the different animation styles. However, I found that Gwen Stacy's world of being more like a wash world, where everything is laid out in washes and gradients that are done through watercolor and or gouache, and specifically done in a way of certain comic artists. I thought that was gorgeous. I thought that the use of color, shapes, and lighting with the way that they're telling the story was amazing. I like how each world had its own theme. The India world had its very much cemented in Indian culture, art, and lighting. Cool. And whatnot to it. I thought the Spider Punk was a bit too much.
I thought he was fantastic. You guys are drunk as Daniel Kaluuya, man. I thought he was amazing.
Oh no, I thought he was amazing and great, but at the same time, his animation style, the animation style that followed him was a lot. They needed to tone him down a degree, because otherwise he was wildly distracting. Although yes, he was amazing, and he was so much cooler when he took his mask off.
God, for real though.
He was.
For real though. He was hella cool. I really liked that.
Yeah. So everything about the animation style is wildly thought out to a degree that made sense to me. Each world has its own feel. Miles Morales' world that you're in, when you're there, the way they use half-toning to tell that story, the way they use color and line and shape on top of that half-toning is very much to a certain level of how comics were created to one degree or another. But then you start traveling through the different time frames, and you're seeing a lot of the 90s, which in the 90s, I think that was the Red Spider-Man. What was that? What was his actual name, Aaron?
Just Spider-Man? I don't know.
Was he still one with
they're all Spider-Man
99? Is that the one you're talking about?
No, the one with the red suit, and he's got that blue hoodie essentially over him.
Oh god, I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think he was I forget what his name actually, because I don't think he was Spider-Man when he came out. He was something else when he came out, but he is very much a product of the 90s. But the way they leaned into that with him was great, where he's like, he's got somebody in a headlock and he's like, look at my rippling muscles. And it's like, okay, you're nuts. I was looking through IMDb trying to figure out who that was. But anyhow, they're obviously doing a lot of thought and Scarlet Spider. Yeah. That's who that was. They're obviously doing a lot of thought into how they're handling the comic feel of everything. So I thought that was well done, but is it overdone or an assault? It's an assault to the senses, really, especially for 2 hours. When it was
20 minutes.
And 20 minutes. Let's 20 minutes. When it was the first movie, and you had all these Spider-Men in one world, and you had the one world very much like Miles, but all the different Spider-Men have their own style that comes with them. That was fine. But when it was all these different worlds, it is way too much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I love Hobie. I thought he was great. Daniel Kaluuya.
Oh, he's great. I quit.
Yeah.
The voice acting across the board, I think, is stellar. There's nobody that I would be disappointed with. And I will say, I think it's important to note that the soundtrack is fantastic.
You have to. Yeah, the first one had a bomb soundtrack.
Yeah, I'd say that, but I'm too old to say that. So it's a fine soundtrack. I liked it a lot. It's stellar. The music is stellar. And I love how they incorporate, I mean, the music feels like part of the world. It's not just something they have in the background to keep things moving or to keep you engaged. Like everything that plays feels like it has a place in whatever is happening at that time. And that's just fantastic to me because very rarely does that work. Usually, I mean, thank God they don't have any singing or anything, but you know, for whatever reason, songs have always been very important to animated films for whatever reason. Usually they're being sung, but a lot of times they're just part of those worlds and they don't always feel like they're part of the world. The music here, and in the last film as well, has just been absorbed into the elements to where it just feels natural. Everything feels so natural. And I think that's fantastic.
I also feel like the soundtrack, the songs, the music operates like a character in itself.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's something that you can continuously, it doesn't distract you, but it's good enough where you do call it out and you're like, damn, that was a really good transition. Or this was the perfect fit for this world, to your point. So the soundtrack is, I was worried, would it meet the level of the first movie soundtrack? And I think it's just a little bit below it, but it's still a damn good soundtrack.
I was disappointed with the soundtrack
What?
because I thought it was fine, but after the first movie having an amazing soundtrack, for this one to be just fine was, you know, it was a letdown.
You sound
I'm
like
not
an
gonna
old
say,
man right now.
Well,
This was a bomb
He's like this?
soundtrack, John. Bomb, I say.
yeah, I'm not gonna go that. I'm not gonna say those types of words. But the thing is like the first one had a soundtrack that gave it so much more life in comparison to this one. It didn't have the same life for me that the first one did, and it's not that. And to be clear, it's a good soundtrack. I'm not disagreeing with you guys whether or not it's a good or bad soundtrack. I'm just saying that compared to the first one, it's a bit of a letdown.
Okay. Hey, you know what? Nobody can be right all the time. That's what I say. I just live by those words.
I say that every time you start talking.
So, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, if $10 is the full price of admission, what do you give it, John?
I'm gonna give it $7.50.
Amanda?
I'm also going to give it $7.50.
Okay, I'm giving it $7. Animation and soundtrack are bomb, but that story I felt was a little convoluted.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we're going to talk about The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, which hits Friday the 9th of June.
Yeah, and this is one that was also at South by Southwest for this year. The world of 17-year-old genius Vicaria, who's played by Leia DeLeon Hayes, is rife with violence, police brutality, and drug abuse. After losing her mother and later her brother to violence, Vicaria vows to stop the violence, bringing her family back to life. She successfully resurrects her brother, but it soon becomes apparent that she has brought back a monster that is hungry for vengeance. And this, I think, is adapted by Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, if I'm not mistaken.
It's not adapted. It's just a reference.
Inspired by?
Yeah, it's inspired by.
I was going to ask you, how much of that do you see in The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster?
The entire movie? Very much.
The Frankenstein
Well,
inspiration?
I mean, it's very much Frankenstein, just told in an urban setting in a modern day. It's a very good film. I was really surprised with how good this was. Not because of anything, you know, sometimes when you see festival films, it can go either way, and it's usually just, well, they were good, or they weren't good. This was very good. Like, it was a very unique take on the Frankenstein story, and honestly, it's a story I'm exhausted by. I just don't enjoy it, typically. I feel like it's been told, retold, reshaped, remodeled about 4 billion times. But I really appreciated the angle that they took, and maybe it's because, you know, just growing up around poorer communities and seeing a lot of the violence that happens there, the whole mindset that Vicaria has in the film is played by Leila DeLeon Hayes, wonderful actress. She is a very brilliant young woman who has seen nothing but death her entire life. Like, she has seen so much death because she lives in a very broken down community, and there's just no help. and people get into drugs to try to make a buck because there's really no other money to get by on, and they end up in violence and death, ultimately death. And she's lost too many people, and she's lost her brother, and she's trying to bring her brother back through this art, if you will, the science of she sees death as a disease, and, you know, like Cobra once said, she's the cure. So it's her trying to find the elements to bring her brother back, and when he does, the damage that he inflicts. And it goes a different way than Frankenstein did. You know, it is very much about her and her monster and her reckoning with what she has done to her own community by bringing this monster back. It's a fascinating story. I don't want to say too much because it goes kind of in unexpected directions, but I really like the approach here and how they use gang violence and the suffering of poor communities to really focus, to use this backdrop as a focus to a bigger problem, so to speak.
Yeah, the parallels, I think, are apparent straight from...
And it's not in your face. And it's not,
the title.
It's not pointing a finger at you like, oh, this is what happened. You know, it's very much, it's telling a story, and that's just part of the story.
So Leia, speaking of her, I've seen the trailer, I've seen some images from some stills from the film.
Mm-hmm.
She seems like she has a wide range of talent, especially in this film. Talk a little bit about her performance here. Oh,
she does a wonderful job. I mean, she's a young woman. She's looking at college. She just happens to be a genius. She can be kind of a dick, you know, because of her relentless pursuit, and she feels like she knows more than her teacher. And she, you know, at one point she gets in a complete disagreement with her teacher, which is handled horribly, by the way, and by the school. And then, you know, she doesn't seem to understand that she's going to, that's the youth of it all, right? She doesn't understand she's going too far in some aspects. And but she's very loving. She's very caring. She wants to save people in her community that matter. She's also kind of cocky. She's also kind of exhausted. She's frustrated with the local gang environment, which is led by Kango, who's played by Denzel Whitaker, who does a really fine job. You know, she carries the film. It's all on her back. She does a wonderful job across the board. And her dad, special shout out, who's played by Chad Coleman. It's kind of a smaller role, but man, he has one scene where he basically approaches the teacher who kind of had his daughter evicted for no reason other than she was questioning her study. And I mean, it is a powerful scene. It's a powerful scene. He's a powerful actor.
All right. Is there anything else that kind of stood out in the film that you wanted to talk about? I know we talked about the parallels already from Frankenstein and this story and the communities of color and those in poverty, but
sure. I don't know if the director Bomani Story shot it because of lack of money or because of he wanted to keep the monster really shadowed for most of the film, but you don't really get too many clear glimpses of the monster, and I think that plays to the movie's advantage. It's not trying to be in your face. A lot of it is from, you know, character like Vicari's eyes, from what she can see or can't see. And I kind of like that aspect of it. There is a lot of blood and gore, but it's not excessive. It's not going for cheap gut thrills, you know, where guts are laying everywhere. It's actually trying to tell a story. The story is more important here than the gore, which I appreciate.
Yeah, and it looks like this is Bomani J. Story's directorial debut for a feature film. So, speaking in terms of that, this is, where would you rate this as a director's first time production? I
think it's a bomb effort, Amanda. Can I say that?
It's a bomb effort.
It is. It's great. I think he really delivers. He is on fire. He is somebody to keep an eye on, and he knows how to tell a story. So I can't wait to see what he does, whether it be in horror or something else down the road.
Jordan Peele, he's coming for you.
Maybe, man. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, I say maybe.
If the full price of admission is $10, what are you giving the angry girl and her monster? The angry black girl and her monster?
I'm giving it $8.
Awesome.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. So we're going to move on, and John, you can rejoin, but any recent film or TV recommendations we haven't previously talked about? Anyone?
I have a couple that I've sat down and enjoyed in the last couple weeks. First of all, last week was the last episode for this first season of Citadel on Prime. I've been following along with this show. It's got a very good feel to it. I really enjoy it. It's got this kind of Venn diagram where you're sitting in the middle of something that's kind of like Mission Impossible, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Bourne Identity, and this kind of sits in where all these kind of link up as far as what kind of spy thriller you're looking at. And it does this whole thing where it jumps back and forth in time, which can be kind of jarring depending on if you're tired of that sort of thing or not. But I think it did a really good job of telling the story here. So I'm excited for people to check this out. There's another season which seems to be following a completely different spy coming out in a few months or next year. So I think it's next year. So if they're continuing to use it as more of an anthology story where they're talking about other spies along the way, that could be really great. I also checked out on Paramount Plus School Spirits. It was something that I didn't think I was going to check out, but I was very much in the mood for something new, so I threw it on, and it's very much something that again, if you wanted to look at Venn diagrams of shows to follow to kind of get a feeling of what it is, it's kind of like 13 Reasons Why meets Ghost meets something with a sense of humor. And it kind of plays with all sorts of different themes and feelings when it comes to high school life. The story behind it is this girl finds herself a ghost. All of a sudden, she doesn't remember how she became a ghost or what happened to her. And she is now forced to, as a ghost, investigate her own death. And she has other ghosts that have died at the school that she engages with to comedic levels and or scary levels. And she has friends that she can engage with to a certain degree or another. And it's very cool. It's kind of campy in some degrees, in some ways, but I really overall enjoyed it. It was worth a sit. And finally on Prime, I checked out a German import called The Griffin. It is a urban fantasy set in a town in Germany where a family over the years has been essentially the guardians of this book, and this book kind of takes them through time, or takes them into this parallel universe where there is a beast that rules over it, and they're the only people who can fight this beast. And it's all about how the youngest son of this whole family is dealing with the idea that he feels like he had been lied to by his father all his entire life because he never really believed in it. But then he has to face the very real fact that his hallucinations are not hallucinations. So, if you can get past some of the dubbing, which I was able to get past some of the dubbing pretty quickly.
I tried. Nope. Can't get past it.
Yeah, if you can get past some of the dubbing, it's an interesting story with an interesting feel. Feels very different than anything else that I've seen out there, and I really enjoyed that too.
I have been catching Fubar, which I know when we talked about it on the podcast, I was very, very much not interested in watching it, but I've actually been enjoying it. I know that there's a little bit of debate on whether it's good or not. I think in terms of something that I can throw on and I don't have to completely focus on and pay every minute attention to, I've been enjoying that part of it. And as much as I'm not the biggest fan of Arnie as an actor, his dynamic with his daughter on the show is really great to watch the two of them kind of go through that.
And he's the CEO of
Resistance.
Of Netflix Action, by the way. He's the new CEO of Netflix.
Are you serious?
It's like a jokey title they made for him. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I also, and I'm sure you've talked a little bit about it, I have been catching Smartless on the road. So that's on Max. I almost said HBO Max.
No, I haven't talked about that. I just started watching it, actually.
Oh, well then start talking about what your perspective is on it.
I liked it. It's definitely self-indulgent. It's the podcast hosts, Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, and Sean Hayes on the road for their podcast tour. I did like some of the honesty that's in there, though. They have one guest in particular that kind of bombs in the audience, and they come back to that multiple times and how they learn to adjust their tour because of it. And they're honest about it, which I was kind of surprised by, because I'm sure that's not very refreshing for the host to hear, or that the guest to hear down the road when they watch this show. But he very much did bomb. I remember that was on social media at that time. So it's cool that they included that. And it was nice to see a glimpse of them behind the scenes. They're kind of who you think they are, but there's also some warmth to it. It's nice at one point you see Will Arnett with his family, and that's nice to see because he kind of seems like the guy who he'd be just a total dick all the time. But it was nice to see that. It's a good show. It was a good look. I don't know if you have to watch all the episodes, but even a couple, and you get the feel for it.
Yeah, pretty much. Also have caught a little bit of Fatal Attraction. I've been kind of hit or miss with that one. What?
I grew up with it in the 80s, and I don't want to go back.
And you don't want to relive that?
Nope.
That's fair. Also tried an episode or two, or a few episodes, I think, actually, of Exo Kitty, I think it's called, which is a spinoff from To All the Boys I Loved Before, whatever the title is. Stars the daughter from that, from those films, the younger sister, if you will. And it's okay. I think it's definitely meant for some younger individuals, not somebody who's about to hit 30. So while I'm not interested in continuing it, I think if you have like a teenager or like a younger kid who is interested in that film franchise, you should give them the opportunity to have, encourage them to watch it, because I think it's pretty good from that standpoint and still goes through some of those difficult coming of age situations.
Sounds good. It's Anna Cathcart. Cathcart. That's her name. That's Kitty. I didn't know that because I watched the movies. I just looked it up.
You Googled it.
I Googled it. Yeah. Or maybe I watched the movies and I just knew that. Don't worry about why. So I'm catching up on Ted Lasso. I haven't finished the recent season. I was waiting for the whole show to run because I don't like waiting week to week on that one. So I'm going through them now. So I'll eventually see the ending. I've heard nothing but raves about it online. Even though critics seem to be trashing this season, I have no problems with it. I'm halfway through. I think it's just like the previous seasons, maybe a little bit more emotional. And I like how Ted doesn't really get a free pass and everything. Like, he has some emotional stuff to deal with. Also, I feel like there's a little lacking in actual coaching this season. I will say that. I mean, I feel like this team is not really being coached anymore. But the characters are what I'm tuning in for, so there you go. And, Troy's not here, but I will say it is not the Roy Kent show. Roy Kent is not taking over. It is very much the Ted Lasso show. So there you go. Now, I also watch a show called Jury Duty, which was recommended to me by multiple people. I don't know why, because I hate reality shows. But I watched it. It's on Freevee. It's on Prime. They just, I think, dropped the whole season without, you don't have to deal with commercials anymore. It's an interesting. Have either one of you guys seen this show? Jury Duty? Either one?
No, but I've heard a lot about it, and I've been tempted to sit down and watch it.
Yes, I recommended it to you.
Oh, okay. Well, it's been recommended to me by 4 people. I don't remember anymore. And honestly,
it's really good.
Amanda, I don't mean this personally, but at some point I just start tuning out recommendations because I don't have time to watch the stuff that I know. Yeah. But I appreciate the recommendation. You can feel it, I'm sure.
I only ever recommend ones to you that I think you'll actually enjoy, not ones that I think you'll be hit or miss on, because I've learned that.
Yeah, I won't stick with it. Like School Spirits was recommended. I tried it. No, not for me. I tried the dubbing one too. Not for me, because the dubbing. That's why. It's not the show. Show's fine. But it's a reality show where everybody in the show is an actor, except, which is right. How's that reality? Except for one person. So there's one dude who thinks he's actually on a jury trial, and all of these wacky ass people are doing wacky ass things, and it's his reaction that we're really gauging and kind of rolling along with. And James Marsden, who is an actor I think we can all agree we enjoy to some capacity in different things. He's been an actor in Westworld and stuff. He's actually on the trial as himself, and he's repeatedly acting like the typical narcissistic actor you would expect, which I find hilarious. I was laughing a lot, so much throughout the show. A lot at Marsden. I mean, at one point he hires paparazzi to come in and take pictures of him.
Oh my God, it's so
to
funny.
distract the jury, so he can get kicked off the jury. He just wants to be kicked off, and he's trying so hard to get off this jury. And it's funny, and it ends up making everybody get sequestered, so they all kind of hate him for a while he gets to enjoy the best life. So it's an interesting show. I do recommend it. I do not like reality shows, but I like this one for whatever reason. I don't know how you do this again because word's kind of spreading about this one. But if you want to check it out, it's worth looking at.
I really want like a behind the scenes of how they made this all come together.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really clever and it's really well done. And they actually do a good job of making it make sense why people would be talking to the camera in different aspects. So it's an interesting dynamic. Now, before we go to our topic, I got to mention Dungeons and Dragons again. Settle down. All right. It's worth the mention. Bring home Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves on 4K Ultra HD today. That stars Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez in a hilarious and action-packed adventure where a band of unlikely heroes must undertake an epic heist to retrieve a lost relic. You can buy it. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. You can buy it. Go buy it. I want another one. You got to buy it so I get another one. You can buy it on 4K Ultra HD. You get over an hour of bonus content. We just talked earlier. Physical media matters, so definitely go buy it. It's rated PG-13 from Paramount. We've talked about this movie ad nauseum on this show since it came out. We want it to succeed, so we do get another one because honestly, it's absolutely enjoyable from start to finish. It's a great time. Great movie. Great time. We all agree, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, does that mean you roll a 20, Amanda? What's a good roll? I don't play the game.
Yes, 20 is going to be a critical hit.
See? It's a 20. There's a 20. You roll a 20 if you watch this. Maybe a 40 if you buy it. Can you get a 40?
On a different die, but it's still not going to be the best.
Fine. Whatever. Let's go to our From the Outside In topic. It's going to be a shortened topic this week because it's not a long conversation point, but we've talked about it already, and I'm kind of curious. This is just like an open discussion. We've got a bunch of shows that are ending with 3 seasons, 4 seasons, 5 seasons. You've got Ted Lasso, Barry, Succession just ended. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel ended with 5 seasons. So you've got a lot in the mix. Ted Lasso's 3, the other 2 are 4, and this is 5. And it's the plan. It's different from it got canceled. Okay. I'm not talking about shows that got canceled at 4 or 5 seasons. And so they had to wrap it up. I'm talking about they planned it and they ended on their own terms. What do you guys think about that versus the old, it went on for 8, 9, 10 years and it was on network TV and it had 22 episodes every season and you had hundreds of episodes. Where do you guys land in terms of that television? Because you both have experience with both. Amanda, you're still watching Grey's Anatomy for whatever reason. What say you guys?
Don't ask me why.
What do you think?
I'm really starting to love this idea of shortened seasons with shortened episodes because it takes out a lot of that fluff that with these extended seasons that you kind of get annoying. I remember over the years watching whatever it was that had 24 episodes, and you can definitely get to those episodes where you're like, okay, well this didn't do anything to move that story that they were talking about all along. This is just them kind of like goofing off. And it takes that out of there and gives them a definitive structure in which to work with. And I find that I enjoy that a lot more than I do, let's just throw all these episodes out there and make as much as we can off of it. And sometimes you'll be bored with it. That's not great. I like how these shortened episodes, sometimes they cost just as much to make, but they're using that money better also. So TV shows are getting much more advanced practical effects, digital effects, all those things are coming to them in a way that it make them more cinematic and more enjoyable to me.
Yeah, but on the same token, I would say, devil's advocate, they're spending so much money on these shows that aren't resonating, right? There's a bunch of them that aren't resonating and therefore being pulled off of services. So you might have enjoyed it and you'll never see it again and you can't buy it or anything else. There's a downside to that too. When they cost so much and they don't bring back money, the streamers don't keep them. And a lot of these shortened seasons they're all on streamers. I mean, that's a negative, right? Or am I just being crazy?
Yeah, that's a negative. And I'm I suffer from falling in love with a lot of shows that ended too soon or ended in a way that nobody really picked up on it. The OA is a pretty famous one for me, where I thought that was a pretty amazing storytelling, and yet it didn't hit the fandom the way I had hoped it would. So, and can I find it anywhere else? Only on Netflix. I can't own it, and I'm left without a story that tells its way. But it's the same thing when you have the long seasons too. If it doesn't find its audience, it's not going to.
Amanda, what about you, Miss? I've devoted most of my adult life to Grey's Anatomy.
I'm still a fan of the hour-long episodes that have, anywhere from 18 to 22 or even 24 episodes in a season. Yeah, I've always enjoyed that format. I think it's partly because I grew up on that format. I've never really, I guess, flocked to those sitcom type shows where they're only like 30 minutes and it's just kind of, you're done after that. I've just never been that interested in them. But when it comes to the drama, because that's where I'm more invested in television, is drama or mystery, things like that, I want that to continue. I love seeing the characters go on their journey. Like Grey's Anatomy, if they didn't change their writers and had such shitty writers right now, I'm really sorry, no offense, or at least the direction for those writers, it's laughable now at times, but I'm still invested in some of those characters. And that's where my desire for television comes from, is my investment in those people and where their trajectory is going to go, and things that, the hiccups that they encounter, and just the interpersonal relationships and all of that. The thing that I've really enjoyed about Grey's Anatomy for so many years is that you get to experience life with these characters because it's gone on for so long. So you experience death just like life is. You experience joy just like life has. You experience the sadness and the struggles. And so that's kind of a show that I'll even go back to if I need like some sort of comfort, because it's like, well, they have it worse. You know what I mean? If there's a plane crash and all your friends died in that plane crash, who am I to complain about my life? So it kind of makes me feel better in that respect, but also it gives you a place to, I don't know, explore a different journey.
I don't think people should be mad at you that you complain about your life. You still have one that's yours to complain about. That's just how it works. Sorry.
Fair enough.
Sucks.
Mirroring some of the things. It
puts it in perspective, though.
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Yeah, mirroring some of the things that Amanda just said. That's one thing I do love about the longer running shows. The Supernaturals, whatever else I can think of off the top of the Buffy the Vampire Slayers, whatever else there is out there that I really love that took a long time to sit down and watch. That you end up growing up with those characters. You end up watching it because you like them. Psych is another one of those where it didn't matter what kind of idiot adventure they got themselves into. You watched it just to watch Sean and Gus. It stopped being about the mystery and it started being more about the characters, and that's something that I think is beautiful about the longer shows. It's kind of an interesting dichotomy. Longer shows, you get to develop a relationship with the character and you start showing up for them. The shorter shows, you appreciate the fine storytelling and the actual direction in which they're heading in versus just moving along at whatever direction they can. So that's what I find to be interesting between those two. And it's nice to see that both do have their merits, for sure.
Perfect example is Psych, because that's one that I've watched religiously, and I've seen every episode probably 4 or 5 times, if not more. I'd rather not commit to a number, but every time I watch them, I know what's going to happen. I know a lot of the jokes and stuff, but I always forget who the murderer is because I never really cared. I'm not watching it for that. I just don't care. I don't care who it is. Sometimes I'll remember, sometimes I don't. I don't care. I'm watching it because I love those characters, and I just love being in that world, and it makes me smile, and probably why, Amanda, you watch Buffy, John, you watch How I Met Your Mother, and those went on forever and ever and ever and ever. And don't understand, because people love to tell me how so many movies are too long, but they'll watch a 8-hour show in a afternoon just 'cause. What's the difference? I don't quite understand, but I mean,
you still get conclusion though. You're getting conclusion at the end of every episode.
but they'll say, "Hey, that movie's too long. I don't want to see that movie. It's too long." But they'll sit and watch an 8-hour show that afternoon. Like,
well, maybe it's the difference between sitting on your couch for 8 hours and not having and being able to pause it, being able to control your environment. Versus being in the
I've
theater
even
for
heard this
3
argument
hours.
when stuff's on video or it's on streaming or something. They don't want to watch the movie. That movie's too long. It was too long, but they have no problem watching an 8-hour show. And it's just, I mean, granted, yes, you're right. There are some of the people that just, well, I don't want to sit in a theater for that long. Okay, fine. On the same token, what's different between a theater chair and your couch? I mean, I guess you can sit around and let
No pants, Aaron.
Yeah,
No
that's
pants
kinda
is
where
the
I was
difference.
going and trying not to say it out loud. But yeah, you could sit butt ass naked on your couch and dirty it up for the next guest that you have over. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Gross. I never ever want to sit on your couch now. So I don't want to sit.
I'm sitting on it right now
I don't want
without
to
pants.
sit anywhere where people don't have pants on. Anywhere. Nowhere. I don't want to sit anywhere where nobody, where bare ass was not. Okay. Lost my total thought. But I obviously like both, but I would not watch a 22 episode season of anything anymore. And a lot of that is, it's not because I don't like spending my time in the world with those characters. It's that there's too much stuff now out there. But what I do love is that these shows are getting endings that they plan for. Whereas in the old days, they would, have these 22 episode seasons and they would get canceled, and either we wouldn't get an ending or we would get a half-assed ending because they didn't find out until way late in the season, and they had to write an ending quick. Now, showrunners are getting the chance to finish their story, and they're actually committing to ending it early. Succession could have went on a couple more years. I mean, HBO would have paid for it, or Max, or whatever you want to call them. Barry was very critically appreciated. That could have went on for some time. Same with Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and a lot of other shows. But they decided to end on their... Ted Lasso is literally at the height of its popularity. I mean, it's still peaking. It hasn't even peaked yet. And they still said, no. Jason Sudeikis had it very firm, a 3-season set in his mind, and that's what he was going with. Now, could it go spin off or something like that? Absolutely. But in terms of Ted Lasso, it's done. And I admire that. I admire that we can do that now, and that we are doing that, and we're doing it a lot. It's nice to get a story told, and I still enjoy those characters. I can still go back to them. Cobra Kai is ending with season 6. I'm glad that that's coming to an end because it was real close to going on too long.
Yep.
Even at 10 episode seasons, it was real close, and half-hour episodes, still very close to going on too long. So I love seeing these shows finish their runs, and it's not 212 episodes. It's not The Blacklist, which I've been doing that podcast for 10 frickin' years. Die. Just die. This show needs to die because they don't care about it anymore. They're just doing it for money. And I know it's a hard thing to say, and there's probably some Blacklist listeners here who are mad at me for saying it. But I'm just saying, I haven't seen anything that doesn't scream commercialism since the end of season 8. I just haven't. It's just, I feel like they haven't put the same kind of energy and thought into it. And that's when you just know it's time. Like, just end on
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, Grey's Anatomy should have taken a bullet a long time ago. I have no idea why that show's on. Grey's not on, and Shonda Rhimes ain't on it. Why are people still watching it? I just
Commitment to those characters. You're with them for so long. Granted, we're running slim on the original ones, but as they are smart in this, they don't get rid of one of the founding characters or a longtime character until they've gotten your buy-in and adoration for another new character.
Sure.
So they're just constantly reintroducing new people, and it's just phasing the old ones out slowly but surely. So they do have a cycle there, but it's just, I think to your point, what you were talking about where Blacklist has gotten commercialized, Grey's Anatomy is very much politicized. every episode is based on a controversial topic.
Oh God.
Especially around healthcare. And while I think there's some merit in that, you know, to demonstrate the reality in the healthcare environment of what this all looks like, I don't need you to put an abortion episode on just because there's debates through Roe v. Wade. You know what I mean? Like that, I get the intention behind it, and we want that social activism, or I want social activism and all that good stuff. But there's a time and a place, and sometimes it just feels forced. Like I can go into a Grey's Anatomy episode, and I know exactly why they're telling the story they're telling, because of it's got a parallel to reality.
Gotcha. That's too bad.
So it's become the Law and Order of medical shows.
Kind of,
but Law and Order,
does
it? I will make a case for Law and Order though, because that show, at least every episode is different. I mean, it's a standalone. So, and nobody cares about the characters because they don't really focus on I think they're doing a little bit more now than they used to, but they don't really focus on the characters. So I can watch any episode from any season, and it doesn't matter. None of it matters. That series just doesn't matter. But it's good. Mindless enjoyment. It's good. It's the old network TV staple, right? Where it's all about the episode of the week. It's not about the characters. Where Amanda's saying Grey's Anatomy is all about the characters. And I can't understand why any character you want to stay with for 20 years. But then again, I've been watching Psych since it came out, and I still watch it. So what do I know? We all have our thing. We all have our vice, I guess. And we did ask, we polled our Facebook group, you know, what they thought. Do they prefer shortened TV seasons, or do they prefer the 22 episode ran for 10 years kind of? Everybody literally said shortened seasons. So I feel like this is a lot of what people want these days. You know, the attention to detail has kind of, I don't want to say waned, but with so much content, it becomes harder to keep up with. You know, it used to be, you watched your shows pretty religiously. They'd end in a cliffhanger in May. You come back in September. You pretty much remember what happened. Now, there's so much you're watching every other week. It's hard to remember what even happened. You always need those recaps anymore. My God, those are the best things ever invented, is a recap.
What's the difference, though, between... Because now every show is just getting a spinoff. Like, they're having shortened seasons, but then they're just doing a spinoff to extend that universe. And it's like, what's the difference? I understand we're changing the perspective and the focal point, but you could do that in each season. You could change that focal point every season if you wanted to.
You could, and I wish more shows would. I mean, at least the original show ends, so you get a different show and you can stay with it or leave it. So you get a conclusion. You don't have to wait 10 more years for a conclusion to your story that you were originally invested in.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Because, I mean, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul are two completely different shows. You might have a spin-off character, but it's a completely different show, which is a good thing. Now, granted, a lot of spin-offs aren't that way. It's basically the same show, just focused on more of a supporting character. But
yeah, like, for example, Netflix has Bridgerton, and then they did a spin-off for Queen Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Now, I loved Queen Charlotte. I thought it was phenomenal, but it was mostly to provide an alternative perspective to stories we've already seen and just get additional backstory and context about a supporting character.
That's pretty crazy. I'm glad we're finally getting shows that they get to end on their own terms and they're ending quicker. I like that.
I think my most recent example of a good show that did that was Schitt's Creek. They ended it on their own terms, and they ended it beautifully on their own terms.
Right at the height of their popularity, too.
Good call out.
Yeah, I mean, my God. And a beautiful ending. And they also left it open. Hey, we could come back and do a movie or something down the road, or a short season on something else. And I think everybody would be fine with it, and it wouldn't ruin that, because you have that. It's done. And it makes me want more, which I think we need more of. Leave us wanting more, not leave us wanting you to leave. Which apparently...
Don't go away, Matt. Just go away.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so we're going to move on. First, I want to share your thoughts on this episode or anything else in our Facebook group, The Hollywood Outsider. We're on Twitter @BuyPopcorn. Our website is TheHollywoodOutsider.com, and of course, Patreon.com/TheHollywoodOutsider. Please rate and subscribe us if you haven't before. You can also find John's artwork on Insta and Twitter at rjohndraws, Amanda on Smirk and at Sink Into This, Troy at Troy Heinrichs, and The Blacklist Exposed, where we're finishing up that season. Finishes in July, so we're told. And also, I do Presenting Hitchcock, which is at Presenting Hitchcock. And I'm at Aaron Smirks. And Presenting Hitchcock, we just finished. We've actually watched every Alfred Hitchcock movie now. We completed it. Every single Alfred Hitchcock film I have now seen, even the silent ones.
That's impressive. Did it meet your bucket list? Was that on your bucket list to watch all of them?
Yep, that was on my bucket list.
Cool.
Yep. And we're going to continue it and just look at Hitchcockian films, see? Or sequels or remakes and all that kind of stuff. So there's more to do. All right. Let's go to our Ho game, which is Let's Do It Better. So Strays is out, which is basically Homeward Bound with cute animals racing home to F-bombs and sex jokes. So if you could take any, it's just a real quick little game. If you could take any previously safe space and make it a raunchy R-rated movie, how would you do it? Let's do it better. John?
All right. So I'm going to do The Land Before Time.
Okay. Dinosaur swearing?
Okay.
Dinosaur swearing. You know, you're gonna have Littlefoot. Littlefoot's gonna be an older teenager. It's gonna just figure Land Before Time meets Road Trip. Littlefoot is now gathering his bunch of little buddies to go on a road trip or across the valley to go get himself some tail, so to speak. And along the way, you get into some sort of
so to speak.
Along the way, you get some sort of hilarity. You get some sort of dirty moments. You get some sort of things like where the Triceratops is using, I don't know, a frog or a monkey to rub one out with, or that sort of stuff on it.
Man.
And Littlefoot's is not the sweet dinosaur he once was. He's now a sarcastic pain in the ass who has lost all touch of who he was before and has gone 100% teenager. So that's my pitch. It's going to be Land Before Time meets Road Trip, raunchy sex comedy.
All right, I would watch it. I'll be honest. I would watch it. Sounds interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, all right, Jinx, show me a Coke. So mine would be, I would want to, and granted this is a movie, but I want to do like a family sitcom, R-rated style. Like a Full House or Family Ties, like those 80s family sitcoms where everybody, and they tried a light version of this with that Brady Bunch movie where they would kind of introduce a little top language and whatnot. No, I want to go full F-bomb, sex, nudity, the whole thing. I just want that sitcom motif turned on its head and made complete fun of. I want them to, whether it can be like the Three Dads of like Full House, or it can be a Family Ties, whatever it is. I just want a family in a house where they're just shitty parents. The kids are assholes. Everybody swears. When they have those really, special talks about things like, well, about pregnancy and whatnot, the suggestions are automatically horrible. Like, oh, you definitely need to abort that. Things like, I just want it to go very, very dark. And I even want the laugh track to still be there. I still want the laugh track, if possible. That's my idea.
It's way too late for a hanger in this moment.
Exactly. I want it to go as dark as possible.
Oh, man.
Amanda.
So my pitch for you guys is to take Home Alone. But that kid that you just cannot stand. You see them in the store or the restaurant, and they're just a real dick to their parents. Mm-hmm. And you're like, man, I would really love if this kid just got punched in the face one time. Just one time to learn their lesson, mm-hmm. to realize that they shouldn't be the little shithead that they are. So I want that kid to be the primary child in Home Alone. Okay, so that's Kevin.
Okay.
And I want the parents to have intentionally left him behind because he's such a shithead. And then I want
home abandonment.
Home abandonment. And then I want the people who are trying to get into his house, I want there to be like kind of a real murdery feel to it. So there's some real gruesome shit that's going to go down in this. And because this kid is a real jerk, we're kind of rooting for the bad guys of like, maybe get this kid just a little bit. Like, don't fully murder him, but definitely get him good. So you're actually on the other side and rooting for them, not your primary character. And then obviously, you know, he starts to learn as people bully him back that he can't be that way. And he turns into a better child and all is happy-go-lucky towards the end.
Oh, he's going to learn lessons?
I want him to learn the lesson, but I want him to learn it in a real hard way. Like, this man is in the hospital. His leg is broken. You know, he's got some real bad injuries, okay, that the parents come home to. And they're just like, this seems like your problem because you were such a shithead. Now you understand.
I was kind of hoping they would get the kid in the end.
That they would murder him? Yeah. I'm not opposed to that. I just didn't want to advocate for child murder on the podcast.
Let's make him 17.5 years old. I don't know.
There you go. There you go.
Cover some bases.
Yeah.
This is almost Better Watch Out.
Yeah.
Not really. That kid was a good kid.
Oh.
No, he wasn't.
Oh, wait. Hang on. Never mind. I forgot the movie. Okay.
Yeah.
But kind of. Yeah. But I like your idea, Amanda. I like it.
I like her idea. It's almost Better Watch Out. But yeah, I like the idea.
But I want the kid to get it in the end. I do.
He should totally get it.
Yeah.
All right. He can get it.
Yeah. I want it to be his own trap. Like, he thinks he's got them.
100%.
And then it's his own trap that does him in.
Yep. 100%. That's where I was like, if he gets injured by his own dumb mistakes, like he forgot he put that there or did that thing.
So good.
He'll really learn lessons.
And then
but
as they're all dying
cool
together. They're all dying together. And the criminals get to watch him die first. I like that.
I like it.
Let's go dark. Home Abandonment, coming to theaters near you. All right, that's going to do it. Remember, the next time you head to a theater or stream comfortably on your couch and watch all these beautiful shows, wrap up, buy popcorn.
I believe in you.
What? Why would you? Why do you? Why don't you? Why wouldn't you?
Speaking of believe, questions. I went to a work conference thing, and the entire thing had a theme, and the theme was Ted Lasso.
Like the theme was
I can never watch this show.
Ted Lasso?
Yeah, they themed it around like they pulled in quotes from Ted Lasso and related it to like their scenario of what they're trying to talk about and coaching and having difficult conversations and all that good stuff.
And believing.
I can definitely never watch
and believing, definitely believing.
John, you could keep saying you're not going to believe it or you're not going to watch it. It doesn't make it any more impressive. It just makes you a sad little man.
No, but I have to wait at least 5 years before I can watch the show.
Why? It doesn't make it cooler. It doesn't make it cooler, man.
No.
There's too much joy in it for him.
No, well, there's that, but more so to the point is that I've heard nothing but amazing things about this, so my expectations are so high for this show that I don't know if it'll ever be able to meet it. So if I wait 5 years,
because every time we've mentioned it, you've acted like you wanted nothing to do with it, like from the jump. So it's not like you've ever acted like you wanted to watch the show. Not once.
Well, I mean, wait, you might be right.
Oh, I know I'm right. I've been listening. This is a show where the main character does everything he can to stay positive. That should be something that everybody strives for. We don't have any shows like that in the world right now. We don't. We have none. This is it. That's why it's catching people's eye, is because there aren't, and they still have characters that are flawed and they have problems. Even Ted's flawed and has problems, but he's trying to be positive in every moment, and that is commendable.
And some of these characters have mental illnesses that they're having to struggle and battle with, and so they kind of show you like getting through those really, really hard times and supporting each other through it. And it is a little wholesome. I don't know if you might be a little too pessimistic right now to enjoy it.
If you can crawl out of the black hole and the abyss that you're in currently and settle for some joy.
Black hole.
There you go.
No, I am covered in the warmth and joy of my black hole.
Jeez. All right, well, enjoy your ooze.
Black hole, I would think traditionally would be cold and dark and gloomy and filled with spiders. So have fun with that.
Oh, great. Another fucking multiverse. Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning Start again.
Are you a DJ now?
I'm a Donald Duck DJ.
Yeah, I was going to say.